just a heads up, there may be some graphic descriptions about things if you don't like that sort of stuff, and of course a trigger warning. I'm talking about miscarriage and infertility, so I just wanted to say that before I start. So next week is National Infertility Awareness Week. I've spoken very openly about our 2 miscarriages. We had 2 missed miscarriages before having our son Noah, but I've never really spoken or written about when I went through Asherman's syndrome, which is a cause of infertility. I don't know why I haven't, it just hasn't come up, but I want to make this video because there is hardly any information on the internet. What you can find is quite sort of fact-based. I've not really found anything on YouTube from women who've gone through it. And I believe that probably a lot of women are actually suffering and don't even know. So if I can impart my wisdom, this is what I want to do. I'm not medically trained, this is just my experience. So what is Asherman's syndrome? Well, there is actually a good website called ashermans.org. I'll link everything below. Asherman's syndrome, or intrauterine adhesions or scarring, is an acquired uterine condition characterised by the formation of adhesions, scar tissue, inside the uterus and or the cervix. In many cases, the front and back walls of the uterus stick to one another. In other cases, adhesions only occur in a small portion of the uterus. Symptoms: most patients with Asherman's syndrome have scanty or absent periods, but some have normal periods. Some patients have no periods but feel pain at the time that their period would normally arrive every month. This pain may indicate that menstruation is occurring, but the blood cannot exit the uterus because the cervix is blocked by adhesions. Recurrent miscarriage and infertility could also be symptoms. So what happened to me? I was first pregnant in early 2013, went for our 12-week scan and was sadly told we'd had a missed miscarriage. I then went and had an ERPC, which is an evacuation of the retained products of conception, which I think is a horrible term. It wasn't products of conception, it was my baby, but that's a different vlog. I was told that it's a very straightforward procedure. I think it's like a D&C. I was given a leaflet afterwards and spoken to by the consultant, who said I'd be very fertile afterwards. They would expect my period to return 4 to 6 weeks after the procedure, and just to wait a month of having a period before trying for a baby again. So I was kind of as positive as I could be after the horrific experience of the miscarriage. Went home. Month passed, 2 months passed, 3 months passed, and I reached 100 days and there was no sign of a period. And I mean absolutely no sign. Well, there was signs. There was period pain, there was monthly things like outbreaks of spots and PMT, but there was no blood whatsoever, not even a speck. And I'd always had very, very regular periods since I was 12. So I knew something was wrong. So I started Googling, as us women do, and I saw this thing called Asherman's syndrome, which is scar tissue in your uterus, usually caused by a procedure like a D&C or an ERPC. So I went along to my doctor armed with sheets from Google and told her. She'd never heard of it, and she just kind of laughed at me really and said, just go away and be patient, which I don't think is a very useful thing to say to a woman who hasn't had a period now for over 100 days. So I insisted on some blood tests. So she did some blood tests to check my hormone levels, and she rang me, and I remember answering the call while I was hands-free on the motorway in my car. And she said to me, oh, good news, the hormone levels and the blood tests show that you're having your period right now. And I was like, brilliant, but I'm not. And she was like, no, you must be. And I was like, I'm not. I know I'm not having my period because I am here with my body. And she was like, oh, well, I don't really understand then. So I then went and started having acupuncture, and I saw this brilliant lady who said to me that she would be able to start a period for me after one session of acupuncture. I had it on, I think, on the Wednesday, and she said by Saturday you'll have a period. And I thought, no, that can't be true. So I had my first ever session of acupuncture. By the Saturday, I had my period, which was the most mind-blowing thing I have ever experienced. But the period only lasted a few hours. So whereas my periods before the pregnancy had been sort of 5 days, 5 to 7 days, very, very usual, you know, the heavy bleeding at first and then kind of not so heavy towards the end, it literally lasted maybe 2-3 hours. So I knew something wasn't right, but I was still pleased that something was happening. So this went on, and then I think I had another one that was the same, perhaps only lasted like 2, 3, 4 hours again. I knew something was wrong. So I went back to my doctors and I insisted on a referral to a consultant. This was then the time, it's all confusing because so much happened to me, but during this time I then got an NHS referral to a consultant. I knew that I could see him privately. The referral came back from the NHS and it was going to be about 4 months, I think, before I could see someone, because it's not a priority, you know. Cancer patients, heart patients, much more important. I understand that. But for me, I'd read that the longer Asherman's syndrome is left and scar tissue in the body, the longer it's left, the worse it can get. And I didn't want to take that risk. So I paid £120 to go and see this consultant privately, who then went on to be like God to me, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have our son Noah. So he did some internal scans, a pelvic scan to see what was going on inside me. If you've never had one and have got to have one, don't panic about it. It's fine. I've had about 50. The thought is horrible, but they're absolutely fine. And he did the scan and he noticed a couple of things. One, that my womb lining was very, very thin and there was no chance that I was ever going to conceive. I think it was like less than a millimetre and it needs to be about 10 to conceive, which was really worrying. And then he said he could see some little bits, some shadows coming up on the scan, but a scan isn't good enough. I would have to have an operation called a hysteroscopy, to see what was going on. So obviously I was very worried and scared about having an operation. And he agreed that perhaps when my ERPC was done, when I'd had my miscarriage, that too much was taken away. So not only was the baby and all the pregnancy taken away, but too much of my womb lining was scraped away and perhaps had left me with none, and also had caused some scarring. But he said he had to go in to have a look. So again, I could have had the procedure on the NHS, and he said it would probably be about a 4 or 5 month wait, and I wasn't prepared to take that risk. So we dived into our life savings, money we were putting away to buy a house. I think the operation was about £4,000, 3 or 4,000, maybe just over £3,000. So it was a lot of money, but for me, I'd have sold everything to pay for it. So we booked in, and I had that, I think I literally booked it and had it within a week, which was amazing. I came around from the operation and my consultant was there to see me, and he woke me up with the words, "You're fine, you'll be having babies in no time," which I remember telling my mum and dad and they burst into tears. It was the best thing he could have ever said to me. And then he explained that yes, there was scar tissue in my womb, and in particular it was blocking my fallopian tubes. So there was no way I was ever going to get pregnant because eggs couldn't pass down like they should do, and I think that's what happens. And there was no way I was going to get pregnant with the thin womb lining because a fertilised egg couldn't embed. So he took away the scar tissue. It sort of snipped away. Luckily, I wasn't a serious case because I had done my research and caught it so soon. But had I left it any longer, had my doctor who thought I was making it up, I could have gone on to have been permanently infertile. So he caught it early. What happened next? He did actually give me some photos of my fallopian tubes. I have turned the house upside down because I wanted to show you, because it's so interesting. Can I find them anywhere? No, they must have been thrown out or something. But basically, the photos showed my fallopian tubes before the procedure, when he first went in, and they were all kind of furry, and you could see all this extra tissue that shouldn't be there. And then afterwards, after he'd cut it all away, and they were just clear and as they should be. Post-operative, I sort of didn't feel that great. It was kind of like severe sort of cramping and things like that. But he said to me, "I bet you'll have a proper period within a month." And lo and behold, I did, like a proper period, about 3 days long. And I went back and had another pelvic scan, and my womb lining had gone from like less than 1 millimetre to about 6, which was amazing. So him just going in and removing the scar tissue then just allowed everything to kind of rebalance as it should. And I then fell pregnant the month after. Sadly, that pregnancy wasn't meant to be either, because we didn't know then that I had this other condition. I had elevated killer cells, which is why I was having miscarriages, but that's a different story. But essentially, my Asherman's syndrome was cured, and I haven't had any issues since. With the second miscarriage, I then did choose to have another ERPC, which a lot of people would say is crazy after my first experience. But I insisted that I had my consultant, who had just done the hysteroscopy on me. I burst into tears and I said to him, I need you to do the operation, please do it for me. I don't trust anyone else, and please don't take too much away. And he agreed to do it, and he was amazing. And he even used scanning equipment or something during the procedure to check that he wasn't taking too much away, which they don't normally do. So I do feel that I got like extra special treatment, which was incredible. So my advice to you, if you think this is happening to you, go to your GP. They probably won't have heard of it because it seems like no one has. Print stuff off the internet. I'm going to leave some links below that are really useful. As I say, there's not a lot out there, but what is out there is good. And just keep going back and insist and insist and insist that you get to see a consultant, who specialises in fertility and gynecology, because they will understand what's going on, and they have the equipment, the scanning equipment. They can do these procedures like a hysteroscopy to see what's going on inside. So I know I've just talked a lot at you, but I just think it's really important. And, I'm hoping that women who think this might be going on with them will search in YouTube, search on Google, and hopefully this video will help you. I really, really hope it does. If you know someone who might be going through it, do share this video with them, because I think sharing is caring with these things. And the more we can arm ourselves with information, the more we can help ourselves on our fertility journey. Thank you so much for watching. Do leave a comment below. Let me know if you've been through this, or if you think you may be going through it, or someone you know has. It's great to talk about because not many people do. Give me a thumbs up, like this video, and of course do subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you for watching. Bye.